Hello, friends, and welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. My name is Scott Cowan, and I'm the host of the show. Each episode, I have a conversation with an interesting guest who is living in or from Washington State. These are casual conversations with real and interesting people. I think you're going to like the show. So let's jump right in with today's guest. Okay, so you're going to be listening to a unscripted rambling phone call between Brooks Smothers and myself today. I wanted Brooks to come back on, and really what I want you to do, Brooks, is update us on what's happening with RVs, what's going on in Washington State that my listeners should know as we hit the prime camping season called winter in Washington.
You know what, Scott? First off and foremost, hold on.
Oh,
I can't talk to you without, it's just appropriate. It's either a coffee or at this hour, it's one of these. So
that particular brand, which
this particular brand,
see, to refresh my,
you know what, your listeners they can't see us. So I'll just let them know. I'm not even embarrassed to admit it. It's a vitamin R and it's fantastic with a little Casadores.
Yes. Okay. So
it's good.
So you didn't grow up in Washington State. So
yes, I did. Born and raised.
I thought you grew up. Why did I think you grew up in Philly? Okay.
No. So I'll tell.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. So just as a recap, I'm born and raised in Washington State. I have moved 37 times in my 5 decades of life now.
Wait,
I can't believe.
Let me interrupt you. Have you moved since the last time we talked?
No.
Oh my God.
Because I now have bought a house. So honest to God, I've been in this house since 2014, and this is the longest I have ever stayed at one address. And when we bought this house, I told friends and family, you can finally put me in ink in your address book. Except by then, nobody had a permanent, an old school address book. Everything's in their phone anymore.
Right.
But still, they got the gist of, after years of keeping me in pencil because the address
you were a nomad.
Was always changing.
Okay.
I was born in Pullman, actually, while my dad was going to veterinary school at Wazoo.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent a decade away from the Northwest. I left at 25 after having probably my first existential crisis on the 520 bridge commuting. I lived in Eastlake in Seattle, and I was commuting over to Redmond Overlake area. And I was on the 520 bridge at 5 o'clock going, is this really what the hell I'm supposed to do until I'm 65? Because this is not okay.
Right.
And that was the 520 bridge 30 years ago. I can't even imagine what the 520 bridge is like now.
Right. So here's why I'm giving you the stink eye about the vitamin R. So remember when we were underage and we would get whatever we could get? I hope my mom
animal beer.
I hope my mom doesn't listen to this.
I
wouldn't drink Rainier then.
You're missing out.
I just don't. It's the weirdest thing. You know which one I like? I like Olympia.
Oh, Olympia's good too.
I like Olympia.
The Tumwater. It's the Tumwater.
It's not. I don't even know where it's being brewed now. It's not.
No, it was the Tumwater.
Yeah, it was the Tumwater. Anyway, but it's so funny because Rainier is so iconic to this region, and their ads were amazing. Did you see the Rainier beer movie that came out?
Not yet.
Oh man. It
is on my it's on my radar.
Those guys did an amazing job. So anybody that hasn't seen that needs to go watch the Rainier beer movie, because
one of my old college roommates, her grandparents were, I can't remember if they were the exact filming location or if the road was in front of their house, but when the R's were doing the old motorcycle, Rainier and Mount Rainier was in the background.
Right.
That was either in front of her grandparents' house or along the filming route or something like that.
That's so very cool. All right. So I was joking about winter being prime camping season. I know people camp year round, but do you put your trailer away at wintertime or do you?
I do.
Okay.
So, I'm a big avid snowboarder.
Okay.
So I'm up, seasons pass holder. So I'm with the kids going up to the mountain just about every weekend or as often as I can.
Right.
And so I do winterize. So we don't RV for about 3 months out of the year.
Okay.
This year, it's going to be a little bit longer, only because we are going to be doing a holiday European tour. And so we're going to England and Paris and doing all of the holidays over there. So I'm winterizing a little earlier than I normally do. Our last trip in 2024 will be Veterans Day weekend.
Oh.
And then I'm winterizing.
Okay.
and putting it in storage.
Okay.
And I'll pull it back out mid-March.
Even though I'm all about Washington State, one of the things you kept talking about on social, and I'm going to just throw it over to you. You went up to Banff, and I think you expressed you were unimpressed, and it wasn't a fun time. I'm kidding.
Oh, Scott, you are such a liar. You are a dirty, dirty liar.
How was it?
No, man. Banff blew my mind. It is just stunning. And my wife and I were talking about, we've towed the RV out to Glacier National Park out in Montana. We've done Glacier, and it's Glacier National Park is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm by no means discounting what that park is. That park is spectacular. But after going to Banff, Glacier is a bit of a letdown.
Wow.
And it's kind of weird, and I don't, whatever. But part of it too is like we go out to Glacier, and I look around and it looks a lot like Washington State. I mean, it's still equally beautiful and with mountains and these, it's just beautiful. But it's, if I'd come from Kansas to Glacier,
Right,
my mind would be blown.
Right.
But I think we live in this pocket of the United States, and we are very lucky to live in this pocket. It is beautiful up here. Yeah. But Banff blew my mind.
Why? What was so awesome about it?
I think the road to drive from Banff up to Jasper is amazing. It now has replaced my favorite stretch of road, which for the last 30 years has been Highway 395, which goes from Death Valley up to Tahoe along kind of the eastern spine of the Sierras. Mm-hmm. That has been my favorite stretch of road since my 20s, and it's now been replaced by the Icefield Parkway.
Wow.
Which is the stretch of road going from Banff to Jasper. But just seeing the jagged peaks and those northern Canadian Rockies are not even like the Rockies in Colorado. It's just, and again, it is a 9-hour drive from, say, Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I'm going to go with, it's pretty stupid close.
Yeah.
A 9-hour drive is not that far.
Well, considering, that's Everett to Tacoma some days for commute.
Right. So, go north and get more beauty.
Yeah. So you guys had a good time up there. Where else have you gone this year? What around Washington? Where'd you guys end up?
Around Washington this year, we did, where did we go? We stayed a lot of local. Mm-hmm. We stayed pretty local and did a lot of camping trips. Just they were mostly weekends mm-hmm. and things of that nature, just because I don't have a lot of time currently at work, and I was trying to save everything for this upcoming European tour where I'm taking like 2.5 weeks. So we stayed close. We went out to Lake Kai. We stayed, where else did we go? Man, I don't remember. We went a lot of places, but it was all just local.
Do you have any plans for 25? You guys mapping anything out?
Not yet. We're so focused on Europe mm-hmm. that and just booking things and just kind of the travel logistics of getting over there.
Have your kids been to Europe before?
No.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I just crested 5 decades. Mm-hmm. So this is a belated kind of birthday trip for us to go on. Right. We're going to meet my mom and stepdad over there. They're old high school sweethearts. They lived in London in the 60s. Okay. And then they broke up at, 18 years old. And then fast forward life 30 years and they reconnected, and they've been happily married now for since 1992.
Wow,
so a long time. So we're going to go and meet up with them. They're already going to be over there. They're going to take the sailing out of New York City to Southampton, England. And they're going to do a 7-day transatlantic cruise.
Oh, wow.
And then we fly over and meet them. But the kids have never been. And since it is a major milestone birthday, mm-hmm. we put down the extra money, and the wife and I are flying business class, and we put the kids in the back, which is going to be awesome. So she and I are sitting up front with bubbles, and we're going to have the whole whatever. Yeah. And the kids are going to be in the back. And my 13-year-old, he's almost 13. His birthday is Thanksgiving this year, and he is asking for an upgrade on his ticket. for his birthday present. And I'm like, you should be lucky. Your bottom is just on the airplane.
Yeah, you can.
So
Oh, that's cool.
that's where we're at.
So yeah, Kenzie,
yes.
my daughter, she's still in Austria, and I don't know. She gets airfare so cheap between probably Munich is where she typically flies out of, Frankfurt or Munich, to Seattle. I mean, she's flying round trip sometimes for $300. And I think
how's she finding those deals?
I don't know, but I swear she must be in the in the overhead compartment bin or something, And but she flies coach. She flies the the economy seat, and
I normally do. For the record, I am a coach flyer. This is just the one time where we were doing the splurge. I was like, I want my chair to fold onto the 6-foot bed so I can actually sleep on the plane.
Well, so there's that, and for that length of a flight, I would. I have this rule, and not because I'm pretentious, but if I'm going to be in an airplane more than 4 hours, I fly first class, because I'm miserable if I don't. I just want the big chair. You don't have to bring me anything. I'm happy if they do, but it's not why I'm doing it. I just want the big chair and the leg room. Yeah. So that's my rule, 4 hours. And we flew.
Okay.
Our big trip this year was, and this is nothing about Washington State. This is great. Our big trip this year is we went and saw the Rolling Stones in Cleveland. And
have you been to Cleveland before?
I had been to Cleveland one time before, but for kind of a crisis, so not as a tourist.
Did you make it to Rock Hall on this trip too? Amazing, right?
You know what? I was so... Now, welcome to Exploring Cleveland with Brooks and Scott.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so enamored with the experience that we had in Cleveland. The city is peaceful. We walked around a lot. We stayed at the place called the Drury, which was the old education building in downtown. This old, really cool old building, and it was a great place to stay. Great base camp. The Stones were amazing. We had 9th row seats.
Awesome.
I hardly miss the kidney that it cost to pay for those.
That's okay. And you know what? You're not going to worry about that. Come the time on deathbed, it will be money well spent. So.
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was, I didn't go in with a lot of expectations, and it absolutely, I would fly to Cleveland tomorrow to go there again. It was so much fun. Too. Yeah.
And Cleveland is one of those, what I call a sleeper city. It really, I again, to your point, we were on our way out. We were driving out to Philadelphia. We were taking the trailer. We were actually RV camping outside of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And I bought the tickets. We went in, and Cleveland knocked my socks off. I had no idea that it was just kind of such a cool little town. And it has a very large Polish population. Yes. And I'm a big fan of like pierogies and pierogies. Mm-hmm. So... And I'm not Polish. I just like eating that food. Sure. And so to be able to go find places to go get pierogies and pierogies was amazing. And yeah, Cleveland was cool.
And so then the other couple of interesting quirks about it, I literally, Thai France literally walked into me coming out of the bathroom in the airport, literally ran into me and, kind of bumped into me, and he looked, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, hey, I go, you're Thai France. And he goes, yeah. And all I could think about is like how tiny that guy was compared to me. He was not, he's not a very, I mean, I'm 6'4", he might be 5'10", anyway, ran into, but the other thing is, this is the nature of, my day gig is, I sell real estate. So I was looking at house prices in Cleveland. We should just sell our homes and move there, because you could conservatively double the square footage you have in Cleveland for less money than what your house would sell for here.
The only thing to that, Scott, is the doubling the square footage.
Okay.
The older I get, I actually think the idea of going into a tiny home and downsizing and whatever is more. I'm not a weekend guy who enjoys working on my home. Yeah. I don't want to tackle projects or deal. Right. I don't get juiced about things like that. Okay. Well,
sell your home and buy a tiny home and retire on the proceeds, because housing prices were stupid. The average price in Cleveland was $209.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was like,
that's great.
And
Yeah.
what's the I saw the other day. Boy, this is going to be a fun episode. Saw the other day in the average price in King County now is $1 million.
Well, so currently, Washington State, there was just yesterday in the news about that family in Falls City tragically shot by their 15-year-old son, family of, I think, 6 or 7, mom and dad, and 3 of his siblings, the kid murdered. And I was reading news, not from our today, but not from any sort of Washington State news story. So I'm reading on the AP Wire and some of the other places, and they're like, it was a $2.5 million home, and it was a nice home on kind of a lake waterfront, whatever. They're calling it a mansion and making a big deal about it being this 2 point. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm jaded, but 2.5. I mean, it was a nice house. It was a big house. I wouldn't call it a mansion. Like, I think Medina for the mansions.
Yeah.
I don't, like.
I'm with
a
you.
3-bedroom house, if you can find one in Seattle, is 1.5. So, like whatever.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy. But then kind of tying this into RVing is my wife and I have started very, very early on in the concept of, do we want one?
Ooh.
And my wife
I have a lot to say
my
about
wife
that.
is far more yes than I am, because I have a couple of
What's your trepidations?
Well, one, I want to be able to stand up in it.
Okay. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Okay.
So a friend of mine has a fifth wheel, and they were over and they stayed here, and I could stand up in that. But the idea of pulling a trailer, I want an all-in-one unit. I want an RV in the sense that, I want to drive my living room around everywhere, not pull it behind a truck. That's just the way I am. So I want to be able to stand up.
I'm going to challenge that in a minute.
Okay,
though.
that's fine.
I'm going to challenge.
And we can 6'4". And then the other thing is, we have a 120-pound dog, and so I want to take him with us.
Yeah, of course.
But anything I look at becomes 30 plus feet long, 6 figures that start with digits higher than 1. And I'm just like, I don't know that we would use it.
Okay. So here are some things I'm gonna suggest to you. So this past year, I actually was a seminar speaker at the Seattle RV show. I gave a couple of seminar talks. I gave one called "So You Want to RV," which is essentially exactly this, kind of some of the questions and the conversations that you're now having with your wife. And the big thing is, it boils down to a couple of things. Being the fact that you're 6'4" does make things a little bit more challenging. So a traditional travel trailer is not probably going to work for you. I'm 6'1.5". I can comfortably stand inside my trailer. I don't feel the need to have to duck. I do sometimes duck initially getting into it, but once I'm into it, it's not a big deal.
And that would be fine for me. Okay.
Right. Okay. But inside, you're right. You're going to have to look at a fifth wheel, so you get that higher clearance on. But yes, you're going to be then in that 30 to 34 feet on a smaller side of a fifth wheel. But you'll get then more than likely, you'll definitely get a queen. You might very well get a king size bed, and an RV king, an RV queen mattress. They make an RV queen, which is the same width as a standard queen bed, but it's shorter, which is what I have. I have an RV queen. And so I need to basically put my head all the way up against the front of the trailer, and then my feet are pressing against the wall.
Right.
And so at 6'1", luckily I'm a side sleeper and kind of sleep in the fetal position, so it's not that big of a deal for me.
Right.
But at 6'4", you couldn't sleep in my bed.
Yeah, I would.
You would be too big for that bed.
That's going to be a challenge. The couple units that we've looked at, the kings. The problem with the king is getting out of it in the middle of the night, because they take up, it's just.
And so that's why if you go to a fifth wheel, you'll probably get the height you need. You'll get a king size bed. And then a lot of times those fifth wheels will have 2 bathrooms. So you'll have kind of an ensuite bathroom. And then you'll have more of like a powder room without a shower kind of down in your main living room. So if you are having friends come over and you guys are doing dinner, or you're making smorgasbord of food and somebody's like, I need to use the restroom, you can. Or you're outside hanging out and you're like, oh, I just need to run into the bathroom. You can go in real easily. So a fifth wheel might be a better option for you.
All right.
That said, one of the big considerations if you're looking at a Class A motorhome is you really are jumping into a high dollar,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're really into RV show price. You're probably in the 175 to 225, and to get even bells and whistles and other things you might want, you could be pushing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Easy.
Easy. Yep. And if you want to get like super fancy and go all out, you're in the million.
Yeah.
But the other thing, good, bad, indifferent, I'm saying this just as a passage of information, but that with the motorhome, you have that whole other motor to maintain.
Yes.
Oil changes, diesel fuel, gas filters or fuel filters. I mean, all of those other things that one needs to do anyway. But with the fifth wheel, you're really going to need to tow that. Here, because we live in the Pacific Northwest and we're in mountainous terrains, you're going to want a 1-ton diesel. You're going to want a F350 or a Ram 3500 or a Chevy Duramax with the Allison transmission.
Right.
You're going to need one of those. So now you're already looking at on the used market, you're looking at a $60,000 or $70,000 truck on top of a $75,000 fifth wheel. So, I mean, you're at 150. A couple of things too to know. Financing an RV is interesting. Don't take this as me offering any sort of financial advice. I am not a financial planner. I am not offering financial advice. I am just merely sharing information. But you can get 15 or 18-year loans on an RV.
Okay.
Because it has a bathroom and a kitchen, banks kind of look at it as a second home kind of thing.
Okay.
So if you're like, hey, this is either something we maybe want to do for a handful of few years, or hey, we're getting ready to retire, we want to go drive around the United States for 3, 4, 5 years and then go, we're done, that was fun, and get back to our house, then doing something like that, knowing that you're just going to make a monthly payment and then be done, it does mean you're taking, if you buy new, you're taking the initial depreciation hit, but that is an option. So kind of the other thing about towing a motorhome then is you still need to tow a daily driver behind it.
Right.
So that way, when you get to your park, your RV resort, wherever you're going, you're like, okay, let's go explore Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We want to drive into Cleveland and go see it. Or, hey, we need to go get groceries. You have your grocery getter to get you around. So you're still having to tow.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're not going to pack up your Class A and go try and find a parking spot with a Class A in downtown Cleveland so you can go to Rock Hall. Or, hey, let's go to, we got Zoo Tunes tickets and I want to go, let's go find a place to camp near Seattle and go to Zoo Tunes.
Right.
You're not going to take your Class A into downtown Seattle.
No.
So
I was thinking I could pull my fifth wheel with my Honda Pilot. You're bursting my butt. I'm kidding.
I mean,
no,
you can't pull a fifth wheel. But your Honda Pilot can pull some smaller travel trailers.
It doesn't have that. It's got 5,000 pound capacity, I think. And
well, like I said, a small travel trailer that you probably won't be able to stand up in. But but these are things to think about when you're looking at kind of doing that art. So I do think you might want to put a fifth wheel. Don't just completely rule out a fifth wheel yet.
Okay.
Being a homeowner, you need a truck anyway. So you can kind of double dip on, saying we need the truck anyway for runs to
Let me ask you this question. Once again, you're not a financial advisor. This is not considered a financial advice. What in your...
And I'm terrible with money, so don't ask me anything.
What is, in your experience, how bad are new units depreciating?
They're just like a vehicle.
Okay. So about the same rate. Okay.
The minute you drive it off the lot, you're taking a hit.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
The other thing that is really interesting that I had no idea about until I became a RV owner, RV dealerships work differently than an automotive dealership. So, we bought a Jayco travel trailer, and here in kind of Western Washington, there's really only two dealers who deal in Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
You have one up near in Mount Vernon and Skagit, and then you have one down in Kent.
Mm-hmm.
We bought ours from the place down in Kent, and we needed to get some warranty work done on it. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to take it to the Mount Vernon one because they're closer to my house than driving down to Kent again. And they gave me a lot of slack for trying to do warranty work on my rig because we didn't buy it from them. So I don't know if it's because, there's a pre-negotiated price of labor that, the manufacturer will pay the dealer. So it may be less than if I were just to come in and say, hey, I need to get this done. They're going to charge me differently versus playing I don't know, but it is treated differently than like, oh, I have a Ford. I need to get work done on my Ford. I can just go to any Ford dealership and get it done.
So what you're saying is if I went over to, and like, let's say Paulsbo RV, and they've got multiple locations on the west side,
you'd be fine because you could probably go to any Paulsbo RV.
Right. But if and let's just say I bought brand X from them. I don't know what brand I would buy. Let's just call it brand X. And I bought it from Paulsbo RV in Auburn, but I wanted to get it serviced over here in Central Washington. I'm not going to be welcomed by the Central Washington folks then, in theory.
Unless it's a Paulsbo RV dealership specifically. No.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why, so a lot of people who might like, oh, I can get this unit in Salt Lake City for a lot less than what I can get it for in Washington State. You know what? It might make sense for me to make that drive by myself or with my family, whatever, to go out and pick up the unit and bring it back.
Right.
And a lot of people do that. And it doesn't mean that they don't do it. It's just more, it can potentially have more headaches.
Got it. Okay.
Is all I'm saying.
Well, as what we're talking about, the RVs in particular, let's talk about your unit specifically. This year, this season, 2024, what sort of maintenance did you have to pull on it? Did anything break this year? Any surprises?
It's an RV. The best thing they call them, I've heard, and I love this, they are rolling earthquakes.
Okay.
So when you're driving down the freeway, I have a towable, I have a 26-foot bunkhouse, I have a family of 4. So it was important for me to have a queen bed that my wife and I could get in on our own side of the bed. I didn't want to have to crawl over her. I didn't want her to have to crawl over me. I'm at that point in my life where I do have to get up in the middle of the night. So not having to crawl over and disrupt anybody's sleep is appreciated. And then the kids needed bunk beds. That was like my immediate must-haves. Right. Everything else was kind of whatever. And we found that with our unit that we have. When I first got it and was towing down the freeway, we would set up camp. And quick side note is really, I find amusing in the RV world. At home, my wife and I do not have clear defined gender roles. I help with the dishes. I scrub toilets. We share the workload of house chores and inside and outside and whatever. We share all of that. In the RV world, we have a clear line of who does what. She takes care of everything inside the trailer, and I take care of everything outside of the trailer.
Okay.
So I dump the poo tank, I dump the tanks, I set up the trailer, level it, do all that. She goes inside and she's putting the groceries away, and she's vacuuming and making our beds and getting the kids squared away and doing kind of so it's funny. We don't have it at home, but in the RV space, we have clear defined gender roles. It's kind of just silly, but whatever. But where was I going with this?
I was asking about, you said rolling earthquake, and I was asking about sort of.
So we would be setting up camp, and she'd be like, and we were new. We had a tent trailer, but now getting to a traveler trailer where we had a bathroom and we had a kitchen and things were different, and it was brand new. So we had all these expectations of what new was like, and we would set up camp and we were finding random screws. And I spent a weekend going, well, where did this screw come from? And instead of camping and spending time with my kids and tossing a Frisbee and having fun, I'm like driving myself crazy going, where did this screw come from? And I couldn't find where it was coming from or rattling. And it was frustrating. And I had to finally just let it go and be like, okay, I'm just going to go to Ace, buy a bunch of boxes of random screws and nuts and bolts. So I have them. So when I finally, 6 months later, figure out where it's from, I have a spare.
Right.
And so these are rolling earthquakes. And so things are moving and bouncing. So there is maintenance that has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that maintenance I do. So annually, I winterize, like I said. And so I drain the water heater and get all of the water out of the water heater. I use an air compressor and kind of blow my water lines free of water. And I add dehumidifiers, unplug the battery, and kind of put it away, and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
In the spring, I reverse that. But in the spring, I'll service my air conditioning unit, go up on the roof, do an inspection, and look along the edges to make sure there's no possible areas where water might leak or do whatever. I'm lubing, greasing, WD-40ing, oiling, silicone dry rub on the slide seals. And so I'm doing all of those kind of annual maintenance things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a lot of work. And, when I do the first trip every year, I stay close. I make sure that I'm close to kind of a Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a run and I need to go get something, I'm close enough that I can. And so I kind of tinker around the campsite over coffee in the morning, and then I'll pause and, whatever, I'll go play a game with the kids or we'll go do whatever. And then kind of at night, I'll maybe do a little bit more and just kind of a thing.
Okay. Yeah, because I've made the thought of pulling a trailer, backing a trailer is what intimidates me.
Nah, it's fine. You got it. And here's the thing. I started towing with a little pop-up tent trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and those things are way more difficult to back up than a long trailer because they articulate faster.
That's what everybody tells me.
So if have you ever towed with like just a utility trailer or a U-Haul rental little whatever?
20 years ago, was helping somebody. No, hear me out. Was helping somebody remodel a house, and he had a Suburban and a double axle dump trailer, and I had to take it to the dump, and it took me 22 minutes to back it in, and they wouldn't help me because they weren't busy, and I was the most entertainment they probably have ever had. I got so annoyed with myself, and that has just really stuck with me. And I'm acknowledging here that I'm my own worst enemy, and I need to address this. I'm hesitant to go out and say, just because we're spending make believe money and go spend $200,000 on a fifth wheel in a truck, and then find out that no one wants to be around me if I have to back it up.
Well, I do. I want to be the guy in the campsite next to you who's got my Rainier going, dude, look at this guy.
Nobody. Yeah.
That's entertainment for us in the campsite. All right. Look at that guy. Well, no, I'm just kidding. No. We've all been there. It's a learning curve. But I will say the longer the trailer, even a double axle, they are easier to back up because you start to make, your correction in the steering wheel and you can see the trailer doing it. So it's really, and a lot of campsites these days are pull-throughs. So you don't even need to really back up.
Right. So what's going on with camping? Are we still, for those of you that are out there that are outdoor enthusiasts that are getting out camping, whether you see people in tents or in RVs, are the state parks still really heavily booked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The state parks are pretty heavily booked, especially in the summer. And they're on a rolling 9-month calendar, right? So I haven't even fully decided where I want to go for Memorial Weekend. And I might already be too late to the game to potentially I'll find a spot and we'll go somewhere. But I'm saying as far as like trying to find a state park to go to, I might already be a little late in the game.
Okay. Share with me what you think's an underrated state park. I mean, that's like asking a guy to tell you where his secret fishing hole is, but what's a state park that you think's underrated?
Well, the biggest state park that is most underrated is...
Stay tuned.
There you go. Did you get it?
I did. That's excellent.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I am a big state park camper.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Washington state parks are absolute jewels for us here as Washingtonians. Bridgeport State Park, out kind of near Pateros. Am I
Pateros,
saying
yeah.
that? Pateros out there is a great state park. Easy access right there to be above the dam.
Yep.
What is that dam? What dam is that?
It's either Wells or Chief Joseph. It's one of the two.
It's Chief Joseph. It's Chief Joseph's dam. So it's above Chief Joseph Dam, and it's a great state park. So if you're a boater too, and if you have a motorhome and are towing your boat out, you can go out and go walleye fishing or do some other, salmon fishing, depending on the time of year you're up there to get fish that have gone up that far. So it's a great little state park, and it's fantastic.
You ever been up to Curlew, up to Lake Curlew?
Yes, I have. Here's a really cool story about Curlew. Okay. My great-grandmother, Mimi, God rest her soul, she was an amazing woman. She married a guy named E.T. Okay. And E.T. and Mimi had an Airstream, and they lived in Oxnard, California, which is south of Santa Barbara, down by Ventura, kind of down there in that area. And every summer, they would tow their Airstream up to Curlew.
Really?
And spend at least a month at Curlew State Park, because E.T. was a big fisherman, and Lake Curlew had some great bass, and he would go in there to go chase bass and chase the trout and whatever species of fish were in there. And they would just hang out and fish and spend the summer at Curlew, and driving from Oxnard. See, that just tells you what kind of gems of a state park we have here.
Curlew is, it's beautiful up there. I was up there.
It is.
I was up there quite a bit this late winter through summer, a lot for business. I was up in that area, so I'd always go in there and stretch my legs and walk around for a half hour at a time. It's beautiful park.
And if you're a great camper, or if you not a remote worker, Curlew has no connectivity. So it is a forced unplugging. So you can bring your kids there. Absolutely. Bring your cell phone. Sure. No problem. You guys can be on your cell phones all you want when we're at the state park, and you don't even need to tell them. Bring them out there, and they'll be like, wait a minute. And you're like, oh man, that's a bummer.
Sorry.
Bummer. Weird. But we were there. When was that? 2021, when it hit 115. Like we were, it was hot, and I had the AC cranking in the trailer, and the trailer cooled off to like a cool 90.
A brisk 90 degrees.
I will champion for you, and hopefully if your wife is listening, one of the greatest things about RV camping is I don't go camping now unless I bring my ice machine.
Your ice machine?
Ice machine. I have a countertop ice machine. Is it even camping unless I have an ice machine? I mean, I take my cocktails seriously. And if I can't have rocks, like, is it even worth camping? I don't even know.
So my buddy's fifth wheel, I go in it. They've got a fireplace, granite countertops, wine rack, wine. Just like, are you kidding me? Why do you need a fireplace? And they go, this is what we use to keep warm when it's just slightly chilled. We just fire it up. It's an electric fireplace.
And you know what? If you want to go camping in November and December, you will appreciate.
Oh yeah, I know. It was the whole. After I got over my amazement that I could stand up and dare I say, this is very roomy feeling. It was. Granite countertops cracked me up. That was like just adding weight to it.
But. It's just adding unnecessary weight. But have you and your wife? Here's the thing too. The other thing, to anybody who is interested in RVing and maybe hasn't done it, and or do not have friends who RV, so they don't have that kind of experience, there's places like outdoorsy.com where you can rent somebody else's RV.
Okay.
And a lot of times you'll say, hey, look, we want to go to Curlew. And so you can go on Outdoorsy and be like, hey, we want to camp at Curlew. And somebody who lives kind of close-ish to Curlew will be like, hey, no problem. You rent the site. Let me know what site number you're in. And on Friday, I will drive over and drop my trailer off. And so you can rent the trailer,
Right.
have the fifth wheel experience or travel trailer, and see, hey, is this RVing thing something I even remotely want to do?
That's a great idea.
And you can stay in somebody else's and just, you're in it for $600 for a weekend or
but still, a whole lot better than spending $60,000 and going, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this.
And then they go, I wish I hadn't done that.
That's a great idea.
Right. And here's the thing about RVing, right? I've done a podcast episode on, is it even camping? And we can joke about bringing an ice machine, and I don't go camping unless I can bring my ice machine. I've tent camped, I've backpacked, I've car camped. 80% of people who camp car camp. So they're bringing some sort of luxury to their camping experience. It's not like you're cutting your toothbrush in half to save ounces on your back and schlep that and carry that in. But, I look at RVing as a way, again, we went to Cleveland and we went out. And so I'm able to drag my home out, and my wife doesn't like to stay in hotels. And no matter how nice and how much we spend on a hotel room, she doesn't sleep in the bed.
Okay.
It just skeeves her out. And she doesn't do that. Huh? So she'll sit in the chair, and she'll sit upright in a chair in a very nice hotel and whatever, because just that's an ism and whatever.
Yeah, but the thing is that why that's what she's going to do. So why subject her to it?
Right. And so we don't. And so we bring our trailer as often as we can. It's our bed. We've replaced the mattress because mattresses that come in RVs, you get excited. You're like, oh, they included a Serta, thinking it's brand and what. And it is a thin, it's not a mattress. The first thing you're going to want to upgrade in any RV, whatever you buy, is you're going to put a new mattress in it, because everybody has a different preference. I like mine hard. I like a memory foam. My parents don't like memory foam. They sleep too hot. So they want to, so everybody has their own preferences on what mattress they find comfortable. And so RVs are not trying to satisfy you with that, knowing
they're just giving you the bare bones.
They're giving you one so you have one, knowing then that's going to be one of your first upgrades you're going to make. But my point is then my wife feels comfortable sleeping in our bed. Our kids are comfortable sleeping in our bed. We have our own toilet. It's not like we need, whatever. So anybody who's ever gone to the bathroom in our toilet is our family or whatever. So we will take that and go. My daughter is on a competitive cheerleading team. I didn't know I was going to be a cheer dad ever. And elite cheer is a whole separate thing. And so we are going to competitions. I mean, cheer comp season is basically December through April. And we're going to cheer comps all the time. And so if there is one, we have one in Portland. And so we've dragged the trailer down and camped. There's a couple of great campsites in the city limits of Portland. And so we can go and have that and go. She had a cheer comp in Vegas. My dad and stepmom lived down in Phoenix, and it was over spring break. So we went down and there's some great RV resorts in Vegas city limits. We went in, we had our thing, we did the cheer thing, we did Vegas, and then we went down to down to Phoenix, and I found an RV resort 20 minutes, half hour from my parents, which was great. We still had at night, we would hang out, do dinner, whatever. They're elderly people in their 70s now. They're like, hey, it's 9:00. We need to go to bed. We're like, see ya. We went to the RV, and wife and I sat up and had a cocktail and hung out and kind of had our own space. So it's not just going to the woods to sit around a campfire or to use as a base camp to go hiking. It's a base camp, no matter what kind of adventure you want to go on, whether if you're a foodie and you want to go into the city and go do a thing, you can still find a campground that's 20 minutes, half hour out that you can use and have. There's a lot of reasons that one should RV.
Okay. So you've said a couple things that intrigue me, that make me ask questions that I don't think we talked about last time. So you mentioned this tabletop ice maker, and you said cocktails. So what's a good camping cocktail?
Oh, old fashioned. Go to.
You answered that awfully quickly.
Go to is an old fashioned.
That was a very quick response.
And or this last year, my wife. My wife and I have both worked at Trader Joe's. Back in the day when she started grad school, like one of her grad school jobs was Trader Joe's. I worked at Trader Joe's while I was trying to find a job in my field when we moved and relocated out east. Trader Joe's is awesome. And so we've always had a, I don't know what to call it, like we'll go and she'll come home, or I'll go to the store and I'll come home with something that we've never bought before. And it's just kind of a random, like, oh, what's something new you brought home from Trader Joe's today? And this summer she brought home these candied oranges that were like, if you take an orange and you slice it so it's a wheel, it's a like 1/8 inch thick wheel of orange, candied. Man, at the campfire, bourbon and that orange wedge. And I just sat, did a bourbon neat, and had the orange wedge. And at the end of the night, I'm eating my orange. The next day, I was like, these are good. I did a vodka club soda, put the orange wedge in it. I was like, this is great. It's hot. Like, man.
So what's the go-to bourbon?
Well, for me, it is my go-to bourbon right now is Bullet. I'll either do the orange label or the rye and the green. I like Maker's Mark as well. Old Forester, surprisingly, for even a less expensive brand. Back to Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's sells a $17 bottle of bourbon pre-tax. $17 bottle of bourbon.
So it's about 75.
Yeah, it's a Trader Joe's branded label.
Right.
You know, right? So it's what, I don't know where they get it. $17.
You're kidding me.
With tax, let's call it 25, 26 bucks.
And it's drinkable?
Oh, amazing.
Really?
I mean, it's not one you're gonna, for going camping, making old fashions, doing whatever. It is a great bourbon.
Okay. Yeah. So as you know, I'm a coffee nut. So let's talk to me about RV coffee. What's your walk me through a morning.
Well, so I have a coffee pot in the RV.
Okay.
So I mean, I will during the pandemic, I subscribed to Camino Island Coffee Roasters and was getting shipments of 2 pounds of coffee, I think every 6 weeks. And their coffee is fantastic, and it's drop shipped to your front door. They just ding my card and hey, coffee comes. I also have always enjoyed, Trader Joe's had one called Cafe Parajo that was an organic something, and now they don't sell it anymore, and I was sad. But so I'll get, good beans and I'll make a pot of coffee. Okay. When I go snowboarding, I take my jet boil and then I have an AeroPress. Yeah. And so I'll use the jet boil to warm the water, and I'll use my AeroPress for tailgate coffee, which is great. After a day of snowboarding, I fire up the jet boil. Everybody gets a cup of noodles. I throw the kids in the back seat of the truck. They're nursing a cup of noodles just to kind of get some warm something in them after a day being on the mountain. And then that gives me time to kind of get out of my snowboarding boots and get out of my snowboarding gear to get ready for the drive home. And then I'm making hot cocoa and a cup of coffee for myself for the drive home. Yeah. So then in the truck, I'm having a fresh cup of yummy AeroPress
I use
coffee.
my AeroPress multiple times every day. And I have found, in fact, I'll give him a pitch because he's the official coffee of Explore Washington State. Island Time Coffee on Whidbey Island.
Where on Whidbey?
He doesn't have a retail storefront. He's in 40 grocery stores in the Snohomish, Whatcom area. But he has a Island Sunset French roast that is just like it.
To die for?
It is.
Okay.
It is delicious.
I'll look for it at my co-op next time I go in there. I bet they might have it.
The
Snow Isle Co-op?
Maybe. I know that he's in all the Hagen's up in that area. So if you have a Hagen's in the area. But Island Time Coffee is, and I like dark roast. So it works really, really well in my AeroPress. That is my go-to thing. AeroPress is simple. I could take that in an RV. I was halfway expecting you to say, well, I have an espresso machine along next door to the ice maker.
No, I don't. I should, but I don't. But you know what's funny? So just recently, I got tested for the 3rd time in my life. I just got tested for ADHD.
Okay.
And this was the 3rd time.
Did you forget the other 2?
And the first 2 times they told me I was borderline. I got tested in high school, tested again in college. Nope, you're borderline nothing. And I'm like, come on. My son's been tested. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
Like, what the hell's going on? And so I just had a new appointment and am recently diagnosed. No shocker, but I have it.
Okay.
And the person that was doing the evaluation, she's asking me, she goes, so kind of what kind of coping skills and mechanisms have you been using your whole life? And I go, oh, I self-medicate with coffee. And she goes, well, how much coffee do you drink? And I go, 40 ounces before noon and another 20 ounces at 3:00. And she goes, you're drinking 60 ounces of coffee a day? And I go, at least. I mean, that's my
table
normal.
stakes.
Yeah, that's just my normal. Like, if I'm feeling a little extra thirsty or a little whatever, hey, I'm picking the kids up. It's 4:00. Let's run through, and go pick up a coffee to go. I mean, that doesn't include lattes or other things throughout the day. Mm-hmm. This is just my staple. She was like, we need you to cut back a little bit. We need to figure out how you can dial that back.
See, that's quackery. Like, okay. You need a new doctor. You just...
yeah, but now I'm medicated. Okay. And so there's a little bit of whatever. But yeah, I was like, she was jaw dropped. She was like, wait a minute. You're like, yeah, I have a 20-ounce cup. I have 2 of those before noon and I have another 20-ounce at 3.
How long have you drank coffee?
I've been drinking coffee since probably 8th grade. Definitely in high school. Okay. Because in high school, me and my buddies, I mean, I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't anymore. I haven't smoked cigarettes, whatever. But so back in the day in high school, like we'd go to Denny's and just drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. And if anybody had extra money, maybe we'd get a grilled cheese sandwich.
And split it.
Poor Denny's, we'd tip them like $3 after hanging out at the table for 4 hours, right. And just being high schoolers.
Right. But yeah, I realized I was talking to my mom about this, and the first agreed upon recorded instance of Scott drinking coffee was the summer before 4th grade. We went back east, and I actually, I'm starting to feel sorry for my mother and my father. They let me have iced coffee, and it was in a crab restaurant in Baltimore. And I can only imagine how many of those I swilled down, and how obnoxious I must have been for hours after that. But yeah,
or the complete opposite. You totally mellowed out and even keeled on like.
Yeah, but iced coffee's got so much sugar in it that.
That's true.
Anyway,
when my daughter was 3 years old, she was in a high chair. I was feeding her a meal. I don't know what meal. It doesn't matter. Probably breakfast. And I was having coffee, and my coffee was. I drink my coffee black. Mm-hmm. I don't put anything in my coffee unless I'm having a latte, and then it's just milk. But I was having a cup of coffee, a mug of coffee, and it was tepid. It wasn't hot. It was tepid. And, she's at the point where she's kind of talking. She's doing the hand signals, like I'm all done, more, please. She's got the basic, hand signals. And I was like, would you like coffee? And she nodded. She didn't know what she was nodding to. And I was like, okay, here you go. And so I handed her a mug of coffee, expecting full on like bitter coffee face and spitting it out and making a mess. I was going to laugh. No, she took a sip and she was like, more, please. And I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. So she doesn't really drink coffee now, and she's now 10, but it was really funny. Like when she was like 2.5, 3 sitting in a high chair, and that whole joke completely backfired on me as a dad. And I was
so got to ask you, what'd the wife say?
She just knew I was being foolish and didn't. I mean, she had a sip. It's not like
I'm just kidding.
She was chugging it back and up for hours or whatever. No, she had a sip, and then she was like, "More, please." And I was like, "Okay, this girl's totally Pacific Northwest.
Oh my gosh,
born and raised Washingtonian.
That's
right
awesome.
Here. It's in her bloodline."
All right. Well, as we're gonna wrap this up, I got to ask you, what's new on your podcast? What have you been doing?
Scott, I've been doing a lot of fun stuff. I've just, I'm always talking to other RVers in the Pacific Northwest who are doing other adventures and finding out where they're adventuring, what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm offering tips and suggestions on things that I've done and mistakes I've made and how to correct them. So I'm just kind of plugging along, talking about why I love to RV in the Pacific Northwest. We are really, really lucky to live in such a beautiful place. And I've said all along, regardless of whether anybody RVs, mm-hmm. if you were to, for the sake of redrawing a map in Washington State, make Seattle the epicenter, mm-hmm. within a 4-hour driving distance, you have the mighty Pacific Ocean. You have the rainforests. You have a national park. You've got Canada. You have the Cascade Mountains and alpine regions. You have the arid, dry desert of Northeast Washington State. You have the rolling wheat fields of the Palouse. You've got wine country out in Walla Walla.
Right.
You got the mouth of the Columbia River at the south. You have all you mountains, and you have this huge eco diversity that is really amazing and is what makes this state so cool.
I would offer you that you got 3 national parks within 4 hours of Seattle.
We do. Right. I didn't even talk about the North Cascades or Mount Rainier.
Got the Olympics.
You're right. I mean, we have 3 national parks within a short drive of Seattle. I mean, it is a great place to just go and RV. And I think some people see it on their bucket list as places to go. And when they come, they're here for our national parks. And they don't think to go check out Leavenworth or to go to Lake Chelan or to go up to Winthrop and Twist and check those areas out. They don't, or out Walla Walla or whatever. Right. There's an observatory in Yakima that I want to go to.
Have you been to the one?
I want to go to the Golden Dale.
The one in Golden Dale.
Yeah, I want to go to the Golden Dale.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I've never been. I want to go check it out.
Been there? Yeah, you need to go.
No, that's on my list.
We went there, and because have you been to Golden Dale, to Maryhill or anything there, that area?
I've been to the wineries, but I've not been to the observatory.
Okay, so there's the observatory, but then down the hill is overlooking the Columbia is the Stonehenge replica. Have you been there? No. Yeah, there's a Stonehenge.
And I'm going to Stonehenge this year for real.
So are you going to be there when they set the clocks back by moving the rocks? Just kidding. No, there's a Stonehenge replica just out of Goldendale that was built to commemorate the soldiers that lost their lives in World War I from that county. And you go there and it's overlooking the Columbia. It's beautiful.
It sounds amazing.
But we were there, and then we drove into town and we went up to the observatory, not really knowing what it was. And we get there and we're walking around, and it's a really cool building. Architecturally, it's this cool space. And they go, "Oh, we're opening up for a lecture. Do you want to come in for the lecture?" And we're like, "Yeah." It was like 3 hours long. We got to look through the telescope and look at things, and we're all standing there. It's well worth it.
That's on my list. That sounds so cool. Again, those are just the cool things of our state. And I got to say, Scott, what you're doing at Explore Washington State podcast is amazing. This summer, for my wife's birthday, when my mother-in-law was visiting from Philly, we went out and went on pterodactyl and did the whole Olympia Sailing Co. thing. Yeah. And after listening to your podcast, we went out and did a sunset sail.
And you guys had a good time?
And did that. We had a fantastic time, and that's a great episode. And what a cool story. Yeah. I'm taking up curling. Well, I don't know if I'm taking up curling, but we're going to go. Some friends and I are going to do an open curl night and learn to curl here next month in November because of your episode on the whole interviewing the gentleman from the
Seattle
Curling Club in Seattle.
Yeah, it's been around since the 50s. I mean, it's like crazy.
Yeah. So I want to go curling. And now that I'm in my 50s, I think curling might be a sport that's more my jam right now. And I don't know if I can throw a stone and have a beer in one hand, but that's my goal. I don't know if that's frowned upon, but I'm going to
somehow I think they're going to encourage it.
I hope so, but
I'm with you. That's something I want to try, like open curling a night. I would be, I was thinking about that. I was like, that would be a really fun thing to check out.
Yep. And I will say that when we were on a road trip up in Banff, I found a podcast in curling called Broomsgate. We listened to it. I don't recommend it, but it was 6 episodes that dove deep into this whole scandal about the brooms and how somebody or this company or companies had designed a broom that basically took the element of the actual stone thrower and the skill and the art of the curl out. And you only needed one sweeper to sweep, and they could like back the stone up, move it forward. Like the amount of technology that was in this broom, they had to like meet as a governing body and determine. It was a really interesting, but I think it could have been an episode or 2, not 6. But
so I got 2 shows. I got 2 shows I think you might get a kick out of. Have you heard of Ghost Herd?
No, Ghost Herd. See, podcasting is awesome.
It was, I think, I can't remember how many episodes she did, 6 or 9 episodes. She's an NPR reporter out of the Tri-Cities area. And
Ooh,
she did
done.
it is about, there was a guy who owned thousands of acres of ranches, and he falsified he 250 head of cattle that didn't exist. It's a cool story. It's a really,
No, this looks awesome. I've pulled
yeah,
up the website right now, and
yeah.
I'm on board.
And
I'm
then
going to
the
start
other
listening to this.
one, and that's Washington State related. The other one that's Washington State related is a fiction podcast called Dirt.
Yep,
He just released
Dirt is good.
this is his final season. The first episode just came out. He's been on the show. That is such a cool show. He has done a brilliant job with that, and it's kind of fun to listen to him as he has his character goes around the state to these various little, like PL. Whoever goes to PL, come on. If you're listening in PL, no offense, gotta be careful what I say.
Right.
But nobody talks about PL, right? Nobody talks about things like that, and it's a very well done show too. But Ghost Herd was, yeah, I was really, when that came out.
I have it right here. I've pulled it up. I can't wait. It's ghostherd.org.
Yeah.
I've already pulled it up on my website. I got a
There you
bookmarked.
go.
I'm going to definitely start listening to it. I will say this too, which is really cool. My son is a 7th grader right now. And so next semester, whenever, in January, when the semester changes, is when he takes Washington State history.
Yeah.
I, as a Washingtonian born and raised kid, I didn't take until 8th grade. So somewhere in me aging out, they've changed it to 7th grade curriculum. But I am really excited for him to, I hope he enjoys it. But Washington State history is one of my favorite classes.
It was mine too.
Just because it's such a cool, we live in such a cool state with the coulees and the dams and the rivers and I mean, not even just the Lewis and Clark coming out. I mean, there's just so much other stuff that just, it's such a cool state.
So I'll share this with you as a way of, if you proclaim something, you got to make it come true, right? So I've been saying this for, at the time of recording this, almost 11 months now. Okay. So I said that I was going to launch this come January of 24. It is now, when this comes out, it'll be November of 24. So it's might be out by then, folks, but probably won't be. I'm starting a second show, and I'm going to call it 42.
Okay.
You want to make a guess why I'm calling it 42?
Well, we were the 42nd state.
Go. But some people go, it's Jackie Robinson, or it's it's the what is it, the universe thing? It's anyway, 42. And it's just going to be less than 15 minutes long. The goal is for it to become a daily show. And I'm just going to talk about interesting trivia facts about Washington State things.
I think that's so cool.
So, for example, the what I've been sharing. Go ahead.
I was just going to get excited. I've talked to you about this offline, but I'm going to say it publicly now. I really want you to interview the artist who did the Soundgarden.
Yes.
In Washington.
Yes.
That needs to come on Explore Washington State. I want the backstory. Okay.
So here's the thing. Let me give you this. This is going to be an example of an episode. What do you know about baby cages?
I don't know anything about them.
Okay, so
I mean,
have you ever heard of them before?
No, but as a parent, it sounds kind of cool. Like,
so they were.
Can I crate chain my babies?
They were very popular in New York and in London in the 20s and 30s, and they would hang them out of windows of their walk-up apartments so that the infants could have fresh air.
Love it. What's wrong with that? Can we not bring these back? Or is this, where did they get frowned upon? Did CPS get involved?
Go figure. I think it might have been EPA because London's air probably wasn't clean in the 20s or 30s.
Oh, yeah, their air quality, that was terrible.
So it was like literally having your infant smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. But so why are we talking about that on a show about Washington State? The woman who had the patent for baby cages was from Spokane.
Okay.
So
I had no idea. Those are cool little trivia nuggets. I appreciate
bizarre, it. There's so many quirky, interesting, like, for example, one episode's going to be, who scored the first points for the Seattle Supersonics?
Okay. I don't know.
Bob Roll.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can you do one on the white elephant? I loved the white elephant, and I was so sad to see that they didn't survive COVID.
the white elephant.
The white elephant on Division Street in Spokane. I used to drive up from Pullman. It was a sporting goods store
Okay.
/ a toy store, but they had a big white elephant out in front of the store. And they an institution in Spokane. They'd been there, I mean, 65 years or something. Family owned, operated, like hunting and fishing, and go buy guns and tackle and whatever. And then that's where I'd buy my G.I. Joes and my Legos, and my sister bought her Barbies, and it was
So were they
go up
like
there to spend our
were
allowance.
they like Chubby and Tubby in Seattle in a way?
Chubby and Tubby was more of a shoe store, if I recall.
What I remember,
this was a true like sporting goods and toy store.
Okay, I'll check it out. I know nothing about that, so that's okay.
Yeah. There was a really cool. If you just go, and they closed COVID. Okay, COVID after whatever the reign of whatever I think
that's
was the final.
COVID, all that things. All right, so I got to ask you a couple more last. Once again, I always ask everybody. I'm going to ask you this question. You're going to answer it again. But coffee. Where's a great place for coffee these days in your neck of the woods?
A great place for me to get coffee in my neck of the woods. I'm still going to go with Narrative. I'm a big fan of Narrative Coffee. Yeah. They got a great coffee shop vibe, and they're a great place to go. Yeah. I also like going to Loft Coffee. I live in Everett.
Where's Loft?
Loft is on Hewitt between Rucker and Colby.
Okay. And what do you like about Loft?
Again, they're a little bit larger. I mean, they kind of have that traditional coffee shop, place where I can go and I can either do a meeting of the minds and have, whatever with people and have community with people, or if I want to go and just plug my AirPods in and fire up my laptop and just kind of work, I can do stuff there. They make a great cup of coffee. They got, kind of your typical coffee shop food fare, bagels and cream cheese and paninis and those kind of things. They also have coffee on nitro. So they have a nitro tap, and we'll do coffee on nitro, which I can appreciate for like an afternoon cup of thing. I'm not a nitro in the morning kind of guy. No, but
afternoon it's awesome.
Yeah, nitro for afternoon.
Yeah. Does Narrative still have the rotating brands coming through like they did? I can't remember the guy who was the owner of Narrative. I can't remember.
Maxwell. Yeah.
And one of the things I liked about when I was going in there was that he would have, different brands of coffee kind of rotating through, kind of like you do it at a pub where you got rotating handles going through.
I think they do, especially for their pour overs, where they'll have like roasters of the week or different kind of roasting notes and things like that.
I always like that.
So for the pour overs, yes, I believe that's still very much a part of that.
And then the follow up to that is, where's a great place for lunch these days in the Everett area?
Ooh, I don't know about lunch, but my new favorite spot is called Tacos and Beer. And it just opened. It used to be Soul, and then Soul closed. Somebody bought it and made it another Mexican restaurant right as COVID hit, which was a really bad time to kind of be opening a restaurant. I feel terrible for them. And now it's called Tacos and Beer, and the food there is incredible.
How's the beer?
Like, the beer's good. The margaritas are usually what I'm there for. Their margaritas are pretty good. They're not the best margaritas in Snohomish County. I think the best margarita in Snohomish County is at the New Mexicans, which is coincidentally right across the street. But the New Mexicans is focused on like New Mexico. Right. So it's a lot of hatch chilies and rich mole and that kind of traditional kind of New Mexican Albuquerque type of food. This place is more, I think, Mexican food, but it's not the like Azteca greasy, kind of that. Like, they really are doing their food legit. Okay. So,
all right, I can't remember, and I didn't listen to our previous episode. So, once again, last question for you.
Yeah, you're
cake
fine.
or pie, and why?
Oh, I'm a pie guy. Okay. I don't know why. I enjoy a good apple pie, good cherry pie, raspberry. And plus, we just had this place open up down the road right after COVID called Pisces Pie, and they make some incredible pies.
Okay, cool. What didn't we talk about? We should have talked about today.
I think the only thing I can say is, by the time this comes out, you said I'm coming out in November sometime.
Well, that's assuming I can get Apple
out
Podcast to like actually let people listen to it, but we'll
publish. But I mean, so we're going to be coming out after Tuesday, November 5th. I don't know what the outcome is going to be Tuesday, November 5th. And all I can hope for is, regardless of the outcome, that I hope that we as Washingtonians can stay together as a community. And even though, what I miss is about a campfire, and I will sit around a campfire with friends and we don't see things necessarily eye to eye, and that's okay. And we will talk about it over our bourbon. We will have a conversation about, I think this, and this is the way I think, and you think that. Well, why do you think that? And those conversations don't happen anymore. And now it's like, oh, you're this, you're that. And it's name calling and fueling division. And that is missed. And I think in order for us collectively as a society and as Washingtonians to move forward, we need to find, I don't want to say common ground. I have strong opinions. I think everybody who listens is going to have their own set of strong opinions, regardless of what my opinions are. I'm worried about the future across the board. And I think it's because we don't talk.
We're not doing a very good job of talking. We do a good job of arguing and not.
And nobody's listening. And I'm scared to talk about where I feel or stand on a particular issue because somebody's going to lambast me on social media. Left, right, center. It doesn't, we need to be able to have these conversations.
Absolutely. Where can people find more about you and the podcast?
You can find RV Out West wherever you get your podcasts. I'm in all the directories: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, any of the smaller ones, whatever. I'm in all of them. You can visit rvoutwest.com. You can follow along, join in the conversation at RV Out West on Instagram and Facebook. If you ever have any questions about what RVing is like, feel free to shoot me a DM or pop me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions and help. Like I said, last year I was a speaker at the Seattle RV show. I'm hoping to return this year. And if so, one of my topics will be Banff.
Okay.
And to tell people and spread the joy about going RVing in Banff, because to be this close, it's just crazy. I had no idea.
Okay. Well, thank you for sitting down with me tonight.
Scott, thank you so much for having me on the show again. It is an absolute pleasure.
We need to do it a little more frequently than, I think it was like 2 years ago that you were on. So it's like, maybe we should, do this.
Well, I mean,
do this a little more often.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Right.
Hope you enjoyed the show. You can reach me on Twitter at ExploreWaState. I'd love to hear your comments. You can also visit our website at explorewashingtonstate.com. If you know anyone who would like the show, it'd be amazing if you'd share the show with them. This is the biggest way that we grow this show. Good old word of mouth. I'm glad you were here with me today, and I hope to have you listening to the next episode. See you then.